The objective summarizes the lesson parts and really is a guide of what you hope to accomplish in the lesson. So you want to think about it in terms of focus. So when we read your objective, we'll be able to understand what are the different parts and what's the key understanding that you want students to be able to demonstrate by the end of the lesson. So if you look at these two different images, what does it make you think about? So if the students are just sort of passively taking in the information, you want to think that just because you covered it doesn't mean they learned it. So again, this idea about how do you make sure the students are really demonstrating their understanding? And that's where that verb is going to come in and is so important in terms of what is it that students have to do to show that they understand the content that you've taught them. So an objective is not saying given a worksheet. It is not saying students will understand. Nobody says, hey, mom, look, I can understand. They need to do something actively to demonstrate how they understand. The objective should not be just copied verbatim from a textbook because you want to make it tailored to how you're going to take that textbook lesson and make it relevant for your specific students that are in front of you. And it should not be just generic to any lesson. It's very specific to exactly what's going to happen in the lesson that you're teaching that day. So an objective should be a sentence that conveys what should be observed and achieved by students. So what is it that you're going to be looking for and what can the students be able to say at the end? I'm able to do this. The given statement at the beginning of an objective. So you'll say, given something, the students will be able to show how the learning is developed and supported. So think about the given as a summary of what happened during the I do and the we do. That sort of the given is what you're providing to the students, what you're giving them so they're able to demonstrate their understanding. So it'll be given, for example, given an anchor chart on bar graphs and an exploration of different types of graphs, students will be able to. Now, the verb that comes next is how they are going to demonstrate their understanding of, for example, bar graphs. So you might say students will be able to analyze bar graphs to determine greater than less than. Students will be able to explain bar graphs to show greater than less than. So think about what is that verb. And again, that verb is then supported throughout the lesson. So you want to focus on the content then that is demonstrated during the lesson. So if you can look at these two different examples, the weaker one is just saying, given a worksheet, students will be able to solve the questions with 80% accuracy. That does not tell you enough about the lesson in terms of what's going to happen. Compared to the stronger one, given examples of scaled bar graphs and practice with a partner. So you can see that examples of scaled bar graphs, that's what's happening in the I do. Practice with a partner, that's what's happening in the we do. So that's a summary of how they're going to learn and demonstrate their understanding. Now, students will be able to interpret the data to answer 1 and 2 step how many and how many more or less than problems. So they have to look at it, look at these bar graphs, and then you're going to focus on how they interpret the data to answer these types of questions. That tells you much more about what they're doing. And then remember back when we talked about the you do, you had there the criteria for how you're going to assess that they met this objective. So that's where you're not saying this 80% accuracy. You want to think about, again, going back to that assessment. What is it that students will submit to show they completely get it? Maybe they might have some points of confusion or they're having trouble. And again, those criteria on the assessments to show how it measures this objective are the same criteria that you're going to be looking for during the I do and the we do as you're teaching the lesson. So you can see how the objective brings all the different parts together.